My concentration in the public health department is epidemiology. The reason I picked that is twofold. One, I am an analyst by trade. So the work that we're doing, and I'm seeing like the chi test and the p test and all these parabola and these things, I dealt with those in the military. So it was like, I can't say I necessarily want to do what I was doing 100% of the time, all the time. However, I'm not going to give up a skill that I acquired and did for 20 years and not find a way to build that bridge, that gap, and make it and to be uniquely mine. And so I did this. The other one I considered was the community health one. However, the anthropology side of my life, we deal with needs assessments, creating programs. A lot of the skills in the classes for that concentration I'm getting in my anthropology. So it would have been like double dipping on top of the training I got in the military. Every time you made rank, you went to school, you went to training, you were required to implement, design, and execute and evaluate your programs. Like all those things I've already done. So epidemiology, one, was a challenge, and I like a challenge. And two, it would give me the area of, I'm creating a program, right? But I have access and the ability to get my own data. And having been a data analyst, I fully understand the freedom and the ability to be more productive if I fully understand how to pull that data. So an example would be this. In the military, when I was an airman and we first started bombing in Asia, we had just changed a rule with our aircraft when they were about to deploy. If your tire was worn out of limits and this close to being worn out of limit, or this close, you had to change the tire, right? So now you're changing a tire possibly a month sooner times 6 different 6 different tires on one aircraft, and you have a fleet of 32. So anytime they're leaving and going on a deployed location kind of mission, you're required to change that tire early. It's a money thing, right? It adds up. So now we already did that because it was the best and safest thing to do. However, we noticed several aircraft were coming back with a C cut out of their tire, right? So it wasn't all of them, it was certain ones. So my 06 came and said, this is the problem we're having, figure out how it's happening, tell me how to get it fixed, because that's what we did as analysts. So what I did was I ran the history of all of our aircraft to see how many of them had damage to the tire. And then once I had that data, I looked at how many had the narrative of some type of a cut, maybe not necessarily the exact C, but like a cut shape in the tire, or damage to the actual tire, like carving marks, not just regular wear and tear. So I found that. So then I looked at all those aircraft that actually had the similar issue and the similar location, and I found that majority of the aircraft that had it, it was a C cut shape, and it was in the far left tire, outer landing gear tire, because usually for, depending on your aircraft, it's like 2 in the back where the wings are and 1 in the front. I did that wrong. And 1 in the front. And so it's usually 2. And so I was able to contact a base in Iraq, their command post, and say, could you please do me a favor and check your flight line, because something keeps happening to our aircraft. And so in doing that, we were able to find out that one of their lights on their taxiway were broke, but it wasn't like smashed. It was kind of cut to diagonal to where instead of like being a flat surface, it was diagonal like that. So if a plane was off center and it hit it and it turned, it cut that C shape and ground it into those tires. And so the master sergeant got on the phone and was like, who is this? And how did you find a broken tail light in Afghanistan from New Jersey? And I was like, the numbers. I was able to pull data and put a picture together. And we used to always joke and say numbers don't lie, people do. And so that's what made me pick epidemiology. And in being in epidemiology, it's very similar, right? So instead of it being an aircraft or a fleet, it's a population or a person. Instead of it being a damaged tire, it could be a damaged body part or an illness, chronic or a disease, short term, and finding out the root cause of that problem. It was the same thing. So instead of me having to get an issue and then go to a friend that I know who's an epidemiologist or has that ability or access to that information or knowledge to manipulate and manage an essay, SAS, or some other database that's used in that company, I can do it. So I can say, here's the problem, here's what I'm looking for, let me write that program. Oh, here's my data, let's make it work, right? And so it cuts out time, it cuts out manning, as well as enhances my ability to be productive and still to learn and to get into different things. And so when I look at public health, the areas that I'm interested in is understanding place, neonatal and maternal mortality, climate change and human health, and redefining health. And so my actual public health internship is going to be with mapping out the availability of care in marginalized communities and identifying if they're accessible. So you could be adequate, which who wants just adequate, but are you accessible? And so that's where that comes in. And when it's not, helping to find ways to do grants. Like I have somebody I know who's able to write grants to get rides for people. And so I might try to implement that when dealing with the Mecklen County Public Health Department. I'll be working with those individuals, and that's exciting. And my thesis for anthropology is on the effects ethnicity has on neonatal and maternal mortality in Western medicine. And that's a whole nother video, which you might get some more throughout the specs of these. But so that's near and dear to my heart for many reasons, as well as understanding place. And you'll read one of my essays I wrote, which helped me fully understand place and fully understand my privileges that I have. And while I do have simple fights and microaggressions and disadvantages just of the fact of showing up at a table in a room being who I am, I have been forced since the age of 5 to understand how to put people at ease so they'll want to listen, as well as how to deliver my message so it's not condescending, it's not negative. Like when you think of climate change, it's like, do this or we're all gonna die. It's still hopeful. It's something we all could be a part of. I'm not trying to implement white guilt or Jewish privilege. I'm like literally just trying to find a way to make things available to more people. And so redefining health also, we tend to say like health is the lack of disease when that's not the case, because I know some people who might have some kind of ailment in their body, but that ailment made them more purposeful. They're more active. They take better care of their mind, their bodies, and their spirit, which makes them healthier than somebody who's never been diagnosed with something but's a couch potato, or fills their mind, spirit, and their body with things that aren't necessarily good long term, and they're great for treats, but not like every day. And so those are 4 things that I will be dealing with. So thanks.